Welcome to the She Makes Africa podcast, brought to you through the efforts of the AWEC Alumni Network. Women's entrepreneurship is the lifeblood of Africa's growth, and our continent is leading worldwide, with women making up 58% of Africa's self-employed population. Entrepreneurship can also be very lonely and expensive without access to finance, but women are rising above these challenges through collaborations. We are here to share these stories from the AWEC Alumni Network over the next 15 minutes. We hope the women's journeys inspire you.
Welcome everyone to yet another episode of the She Makes Africa podcast. My name is Priska Mufunde. I am based in Harare, Zimbabwe, and I was part of cohort 4. The name of our business is the Maker Club, and we're in the EdTech space. I'm joined here today by my co-host, Frida. Frida, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone out there. My name is Frida Muyambo. I live in Zimbabwe, just like Priska does, but I have moved around a fair bit. I run a fashion apparel business called Zoe Kwan, and in my spare time, I love researching and writing about African food.
Excellent. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. She's a member of our AWEC community, and we have invited her to share specifically about how she's leveraging AWEC relationships to grow and strengthen her business through collaborations. Juliet, please introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about your business and what led you to become an entrepreneur.
Thank you so much, Priska. My name is Juliet Kasiita. I am from Uganda. I'm based in Kampala. I'm the founder of Winpreneurs Africa Limited. I was in AWEC cohort 3. Winpreneurs Africa is a diverse and inclusive community. We are a community of empowered women-led generational African ventures. And our mission is to build impactful women-led businesses and organizations for now and the future. So what we literally do is to facilitate professional interactions and personal conversations with different women entrepreneurs, especially in Africa, to be able to transform their passions and expertise into profitable, scalable, and sustainable businesses in their communities. We do a lot of training, basically entrepreneurship training, leadership and personal development, mentorship, coaching, and generally access to opportunities that enrich the lives of these women so that they can create sustainable solutions to Africa's most pressing needs. What literally got me into entrepreneurship? That's an interesting question. I would say I hate poverty, and I hate poverty with a passion. Poverty stinks, and poverty robs women of their dignity. So that was literally, I would say, the underlying factor. But the other thing is that I like solving problems. I'm naturally a solution provider. And one way of providing solutions in my country here in Uganda, and I probably guess in Africa, is being an entrepreneur. So I read somewhere that entrepreneurs are people who solve problems for a profit or no profit or impact. And one of the things that I was coming across here in Uganda was that there was a growing mortality rate of businesses in Uganda. Businesses actually start so fast, but they are unable to move past their third year. And the other thing that was coupled with that was the unemployment level amongst the youth and the women in my country. In fact, right now I call it the current pandemic in Uganda. So I wanted to contribute to that. And the only way to do that was to change the narrative around all these aspects. And that's how I ended up into entrepreneurship. I'm solving problems in my country.
My. Juliet, hey, I wanted to take notes because of everything you were saying, so impactful. And I think your mission and what you're actually doing, it truly embodies even the name of your business, Winpreneurs. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. But whilst we're on that line, Could you share a little bit about your AWEC journey? What are the top 2 things you learned on the program that have significantly impacted your business?
AWEC. I'm trying to even remember who could have sent me that link or email. But well, I must say I called myself a continuous learner. So somehow I just applied. You know, such opportunities, when I see them, I grab them with my hands and my feet. And I remember when I received that email of success, what actually struck me in that communication was the number of applications AWEC had received. I think they mentioned thousands of these applications. When I saw that, I had to take, the bull by the horn. And being in cohort 3, I think also came as a blessing. We were called the COVID cohort, and that availed a lot of time for me. I had a running business, actually, that was also facilitated by this thing called COVID. But I still had a lot of time for my sessions, for my assignments, and my group discussions. The 2 sessions that actually stood out for me, the 2 sessions that I keep speaking about, were business strategy and digital marketing. These sessions literally sent Winpreneurs on a revamp. It's like I had to take an overhaul around everything. I just realized we were doing everything in a wrong way, starting with our strategy and, in fact, our sales strategy. I think that's overall in the business strategy, it was our sales strategy. What we needed to do, what we were going to do, what we were going to achieve. It was just, all these things were coming out. And it was during this time that I picked up the guts actually to go on social media, when we learned about digital marketing, the art and science of selling, all these other things. I remember I used to go back every session and just ask myself, how does this apply to my business? When we talk about, I had been to some training sessions, by the way, I think around BDS, business development services. And, these are terms that keep coming. But I remember in these sessions, I would go back and I'm like, okay, when someone even just talks about barriers to entry, how does this apply to AWEC? So for me, that was quite interesting. And part of this journey for me, I think, was also the peer sessions in my group. These sessions were awesome. The level of accountability, I still remember group 3, cohort 3, was literally admirable. These ladies genuinely looked out for us, for each other. We checked on each other. Even before handing in assignments, we had a pre-call before the call. We just had to make sure everyone had picked all the context in the previous sessions. Our mentors and coaches were great. I'm still actually in touch with my mentor and all my group members. So that has been the journey for me in AWEC.
Oh, wow, Juliet, that is absolutely amazing and very inspiring that you've managed to maintain those relationships. And it sounds like they were quite intense and very intentional. And I love that this takes us into my next question, which is really about the size of the AWEC community. So AWEC is now a community of 1,000 ladies, 1,000 female entrepreneurs from all across Africa, representing different industries. And with this network growing and spread out across the continent, it provides a very unique opportunity for people who've been through the program like yourself to actually collaborate. So can you share an example of a successful collaboration with another AWEC alumni? What made it successful? What were the tangible results on your business or service or brand? And what were the results on theirs?
Thank you for that question, Priska. I have several women that I'm currently working with and collaborating with. Collaborations actually in AWEC, unlike other communities, I think, that I've been a part of. But I'll just share probably a few. There's a lady called Cindy Dlamini. Cindy is from Eswatini. I think that was Swaziland previously. So after our cohort, I remember we were actually starting the year. And I had been observing Cindy a bit in the general conversations, her chats, and those things of how you like each other's, follow each other's LinkedIn and everything. After our cohort, I invited Cindy to come and speak to the Winpreneurs community. This is a community of over 165. I think currently we usually have a beginning of year session away from goal setting, something that we get to focus on as the year starts. So I decided out of faith to just write to her and invite her to come and speak to these ladies. And one of the things that we started talking about, she said, Julie, I think I'm good. I would love to speak about resilience. When you tell me what Winpreneurs is all about and everything, this is what I would love to speak about. So I invited her to that session. And guess what? Cindy gave of her time. I think she was on the call for over 2 hours. That webinar was 2 hours. I had never, I think, had that kind of attendance in terms of retention, like people attend and then drop off. The ladies stayed on the call. And I was like, who does that? And mind you, she did this for free. It was all free. And then after that, we had sessions. Cindy is the kind of person that would call you, check on you, text you. When Cindy has had so many opportunities in different spaces, and she would send me an email or a WhatsApp and says, here is the opportunity, because she knows what I'm doing with the women. And she definitely went on to do that. She runs Women of Crazy Wealth. And for me, I'm not surprised that, you can actually find AWEC women that are full of that kind of wealth. She later invited me to a space of piloting her mentorship program. I remember she called us. I think we were a group of, was it 12 or 10? And she just said, this is what I'm thinking about. Ladies, is there anyone who is interested? I just love serving. I said, okay, let me go and see what happens. She came up with a program. She gave us structures. She, explained to us. We got onto calls. We brainstormed what works and everything. And just after that, we had ladies that we were mentoring, I think from her country, her university. And, these ladies have been an amazing opportunity for my learning, also in the spaces of mentorship. But also getting to understand what actually that segment of the youth go through. There are also multiple ladies in Rwanda that have hosted me when I have conferences to attend within my cohort and actually outside my cohort. I remember this year in May, I was traveling to Kigali in Rwanda, and I just posted on the alum group, and I just said, are there any sisters available? I had coffee with one of the ladies, and out of that, we are actually currently working on hosting a joint summit next year in April. So that's the level of collaboration we've had. There's a lot of sisterhood in Kenya, just like, I usually say they are just our neighbors. And these guys just love to spoil you with opportunities. I know some of them don't even like mentioning their names, but they've really, really been supportive to Winpreneurs to the extent that our community launched in Kenya in 2021. And of course, here in Uganda, I could say I'm speechless. They've been amazing. They share clients. They invite me for speaking engagements. And that has made me also become a little active in the alumni network of AWEC here. And the entire experience has been amazing. I could go on and go on when it comes to AWEC collaborations right now.
Well, Juliet, I could listen to you forever. Honestly, I'm so inspired by what you're sharing, and I am really curious. It sounds like cohort 3 was an amazing experience. But how did you guys know about each other? How did Cindy know you were there, and how did you know Cindy was there? How do you make the connections?
I think one of the things I'll say, first of all, in the AWEC community, I think in the structure, we had an amazing structure. I remember there was a certain, almost at the end of the program, that last exercise that we did, where we reviewed each other's businesses and wrote about each other's businesses. But one of the aspects of that review is that your peers recommended you to other people. Like they had to write, Priska could be able to work with Julie, Frida can work with so-and-so, that kind of exercise. And I think literally, to some of us, we could have just taken it as an exercise, but for me, I had to run with it. You would later collaborate. I went back to my feedback and I wrote down the names of all the people that my peers had said I could be able to collaborate with. And I started writing to them. There's a lady, actually, I remember, who is currently in Botswana. Cindy was one of them. And when I went, I actually read, because remember, when we had that platform, we would be able to see profiles of businesses. So out of that experience, I literally went to connect and write to Cindy. I have engaged all those people that were recommended to me. You kind of go and you have to and engage with people who are in your similar sector. So that exercise helped a lot. But also, personally, I was on the lookout in the sessions, across the 12 months, either in the peer sessions, the master, everything that we had around AWEC. I am privileged. Like I said, we were in COVID, so I was present. I would go on, I read the charts, I check out the active people, I read the charts of other people when we are in the breakout rooms. I'm listening. I was on the lookout in the sessions on who does what. Probably I do something similar to what I do, something that could grow my business. I was engaging other ladies and inquired in those peer sessions. I kept asking, probably if you come from Cameroon, what is it that could literally be similar to what I'm doing? So that's one of the ways I literally had to collaborate. But then one last one, Frida or Priska, I don't know about your cohorts, but there's a particular masterclass that we did, and it was called The Power of Collaborations. I was looking through that masterclass as the lady shared. I was basically going back and looking at every aspect of that. She talked about the ideas. She talked about what you could do, how you can grow these collaborations. So for me, that worked as a tool. When I saw that, I went back to the people. I felt like I had everything in order, the teams and then the tool. So I decided to pursue that. And that's how I connected with all these people. And that's how I continue to connect with them.
Thank you so much for that answer. And I think it's actually a great reminder into how AWEC really worked, how it was, because we did have all that information where we could look at each other's profiles and, choose to connect. So I think, Juliet, you've already shared a lot of the benefits you experienced, from your collaborations, expanding into Kenya, them sharing a lot of information. What do you think were the benefits for the other people who you collaborated with? And what systems, structures, or processes did you put in place to ensure success for both of you?
I think, like the saying goes, we are better together. You build more together and it makes the journey easier. So I think for all the people that I've been able to work with, that is like the underlying benefits. We have had to do so many things together. Like I mentioned, they too have had to access wider markets. They are working with me. Some of them had never thought about, probably coming to a region, East Africa, for that, like Uganda. And that access to that wider market literally has boosted revenue sources for some of them. We keep sharing about this. The other benefit I could also think about, and something that I think we have all found mutually gaining, is the access, the sharing of experience. As Julie, I could be seated here and I'm boasting about probably 8 years experience in running this thing, 5 years experience. But I've had to work with people who have 10 years, some 2 years and everything. And we are bringing all that experience together. And that has increased their influence and reach, but most especially, they've been able to innovate better. I also take that as a benefit on my side. We've all together been able to innovate. The other thing that I think about as a benefit, I think, is some sort of indirect mentorship. as we work together in these collaborations, we are kind of also in a way mentoring each other, holding ourselves accountable, and that becomes a bigger business network that is helping us remain focused. And as we remain focused, we are building brand awareness. So many of them have come back to say, oh, my brand actually now has visibility. Many of them actually talk about it and say we have better credibility because now we can talk about working in other regions. There has been co-marketing. We post on each other's websites. We are cross-promoting. So those are some of the benefits I see that have come out. What are the systems that we have probably put in place? I think we've been clear, and personally on my side, before I get into a collaboration, I am very clear. I know what I want, and I'm always clear about it. In my case, it's usually around vision fit, mission alignment, impact synergies, more or less like how can we support each other's vision? And we've been clear on our objective for the collaborations from the start. So that helps us set clear roles, expectations, and value from each other. So that's one of the systems that we have and the strategy. And then coupled on that, we always come with a notion of remembering it's a win-win, or else then we don't collaborate. It has to be a win-win. It calls for all of us to be engaged and working together. But again, working around that, we always say, let's make sure that we are offering value and impact. We want to live each other's lives better. Those ladies come, they are collaborating with me because they also want to see Winpreneurs better and vice versa. So that has been helpful. We've put systems in place to hold us accountable and aligned. I'll speak about Cindy because Cindy is so structured. Cindy even has an opportunity around check-in. Like it's not just that you do things and then you sit back and all that. So there's a process around that. We've defined our target markets. We even have a process of tracking and measuring success. So what is success in this particular collaboration? We did a webinar together. We are going to do a summit. When it ends, what are the things that worked? What didn't work? What can we do better? So those are some of the systems I think that I have off head that we've been able to work with.
Yeah, just listening to you, Juliet, is very inspiring. You have really taken the time to leverage your AWEC relationships and your AWEC experience to not only just grow your business, but also be an impact on other businesses. Now, in the midst of doing all of this, I know we've talked about the successes, but have you faced any challenges whilst collaborating with an AWEC alum? And if so, how did you work together to overcome them?
Yeah, I think there's just a couple of them. And I think the only challenge for me has been, sometimes it takes quite an engagement or time to understand the cultural context of some countries. Like in one country, I remember I was working with a team that an AWEC collaborator gave me, like their team, and I was working with them. And I felt, as we were working with them, I felt they were quite slow for me. And they felt like I was too fast and aggressive. So I think for me at that time, that was a challenge. And how did I overcome it? I think my notion is take time to ask and understand some of these things. You need to understand the dynamics so that it doesn't hurt the collaboration. So I kept asking, are we on the same page? What can we do better? And all that. So I think that is one of the things that helped me actually deal with that culture context and related areas. And also, I've positioned myself to be willing to adapt, be flexible sometimes while focusing on the goals. Of course, I won't compromise the goals, but be flexible. And also, I've had situations where I have to unlearn if I need to. So yeah, I think that's the challenge and how I've handled it. The rest have really been more of the successes, not so much of the challenges.
Thank you for being so vulnerable with us, Juliet. I could listen to you forever, but if you could share with us how being a part of the AWEC alumni community impacted your business strategy.
I think for me, the business clinics have been a game changer I remember this the recent one we had this year. We had to work. I had to work with my mentor on business strategies for revenue maximization. We had to look at my operational efficiencies, where the gaps were. We revisited my hiring strategy, which was such a challenge in Winpreneurs. And the fact that I work with diverse people, I had to put my organizational culture in place, like literally be clear about what we want to achieve. For me, that has really, really been something that has impacted me from the community.
Thank you so much for that. It's always very interesting to hear how people's strategies have been impacted by being part of the AWEC program. And so what advice would you give to AWEC sisters looking to collaborate with their peers within the AWEC community?
I think be intentional. Motivation is not sometimes a strategy. You need to get past the motivation. Ask, and you'll be surprised that help is all around you. I usually say when you ask, you get 2 responses, yes or no, and none of those have ever led to death of anyone. So ask, give so that you receive. I usually say value begets value. One of the things I've come to learn is that you will be compensated according to the value you bring to the market. So what value are you giving to the market? And as a founder to your business, sometimes you are everything, and that can clog the ability for you to be creative. The best way to be creative is to give yourself space in your head and have ideas run through other people. And that only happens through collaborations. Don't try to do what others can do better than you. Collaborate.
I really applaud you. Thank you so much, Juliet, for everything you shared. You have truly shared so much wisdom, and we are honored to have had you as our guest. To all our friends out there, we love hearing from you. We want you to let us know what your key takeaways are from this episode. Leave us a message in the comments. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify for podcasters. Let us know if you're inspired to take action and collaborate with an AWEC sister. You could be our next guest. Thank you ever so much. Once again, thank you very much for joining the She Makes Africa podcast, brought to you through the efforts of the AWEC Alumni Network. Until next time, let's collaborate.